This is the story of how Dale Hutchinson, a 62-year-old widower and welder of 40 years, turned the tables on an overzealous HOA president after she targeted my late wife's memorial boat. Sarah and I shared 35 wonderful years before cancer took her last spring. Our daughter Jessica lives up in Portland with the grandkids I rarely get to see. The one thing that kept me going was our 1988 Grady White fishing boat, Sarah's dream. We bought it for our 10th anniversary with money we probably shouldn't have spent, but the memories we made on that boat were priceless. Sarah loved sitting in the captain's chair at sunrise, coffee steaming in the cool morning air, watching the world wake up over Clearwater Marina. Now, every weekend I sit in that same chair, listening to her favorite wind chime still hanging from the canopy, the steering wheel worn smooth from both our hands, the smell of marine diesel mixing with my morning coffee, bringing her back for just a moment. Clearwater Point is one of those upscale waterfront communities where $500,000 condos overlook million-dollar yachts. I inherited my modest two-bedroom house from my parents, prime waterfront property that stands out among all the glass and chrome. The marina has 200 slips, some boats worth more than most people's homes, 40-foot cigarette boats, 60-foot Hatteras yachts, custom sailboats loaded with electronics. My little Grady White sits quietly in slip 37, minding its own business. That's where Margaret Eastwood comes in. At 49, she's the HOA president, a wealth management advisor who drives a pearl white Tesla with vanity plates and lives in an $800,000 penthouse overlooking the marina. She wears $300 athleisure outfits to board meetings and treats anyone without a luxury car like they're invisible. One Tuesday morning in early May, she pulled up in her Tesla, parking sideways across my driveway. She handed me a violation notice without even a hello. "Your fishing boat doesn't align with our community aesthetic standards," she said in that fake sweet tone. "Removal required within 72 hours. I asked about these new guidelines. She said they were available during business hours and checked her Apple Watch like she had somewhere important to be. I've lived here my whole life and knew the original HOA documents from 1987 had no such rules. This was new nonsense. 3 days later, a $500 per day fine appeared on my boat's windshield. My wife's memorial was now costing me more than my mortgage. But that same morning, I walked the marina with my coffee and really looked. Boats leaking oil, sitting on blocks for months, rust-stained hulls, torn awnings, none got notices. Yet my well-maintained Grady White did. The senator's 60-foot Hatteras even had a classic vessel exemption after big donations to the Marina Fund. The taste of injustice hit hard. Sarah always said I was like a dog with a bone when something wasn't fair. So I went to the county courthouse and dug through dusty 1987 deeds, surveys, and agreements. That's when I found it. The original marina development required water access for all 200 slips, but the only legal path to open water ran through a 50-foot strip of land that belonged to my property. My parents had signed a permissive easement in 1987 allowing marina traffic to cross, but it was revocable at the landowner's discretion with 30 days' notice. Every single boat in that $50 million marina depended on my permission to reach the water, and I could revoke it any time. I had my buddy Frank, a surveyor, mark the exact easement lines. We confirmed it was the only pathway. Without it, the marina was landlocked. That evening, sitting in Sarah's captain chair as the sun set and the wind chimes sang, I smiled for the first time in months. Margaret had picked a fight with the one person who could shut everything down. She escalated with a certified letter from a fancy law firm threatening $50,000 in damages, attorney fees, and boat removal. I learned that firm specialized in helping HOAs force out elderly residents for developers. But Sarah's life insurance gave me enough to hire a real property lawyer, Carol Jackson, a no-nonsense attorney who drove a 10-year-old Honda. Carol reviewed the documents and confirmed. It was a permissive use easement, revocable with 30 days' notice. I held all the cards. We filed the termination paperwork, sent registered letters to all 200 boat owners, posted notices, and waited the required time. I documented everything. Boats crossing my land daily, The $2.3 million in access fees the HOA had collected over 8 years for something my family provided for free, plans for a $250,000 a year expansion, all dependent on my revocable strip. Margaret tried everything. Emergency HOA meetings to condemn my boat as a safety hazard, attempts to get inspectors to find fence violations. They called it some of the best work they'd seen. Even an emergency restraining order. Nothing stuck. One night at 2 a.m., my motion sensors alerted me. Margaret and 3 men with sledgehammers attacking my fence. I had it all on high-definition video. Police arrived, arrested her for criminal mischief, trespassing, and conspiracy. The judge denied her restraining order, citing the attempted destruction. On Tuesday morning, after Memorial Day weekend, with most owners returning from vacations, I pressed the button on my phone. The heavy steel gate, 300 feet of 8-foot galvanized fencing with solar power, cameras, and remote control, locked shut. 200 boats, worth over $50 million, were trapped. Chaos erupted. Dozens of trailers backed up. Owners pounded on the gate. Margaret screamed from the other side. News crews arrived. The crowd turned on her when I showed the midnight vandalism footage. She was arrested again for disturbing the peace. The Marina stayed closed for 8 days. Margaret was ousted, facing charges and financial ruin. A new board negotiated a fair deal, $150,000 community compensation, guaranteed premium slip for Sarah's boat, monthly easement fees, no more selective enforcement, and bylaws protecting residents from future bullies. I reopened the gate. The sound of engines firing up again felt like freedom. I used part of the settlement to start the Sarah's Dream Maritime Scholarship Fund for boat safety courses and education for working-class kids. Now, every Saturday, I sit in the captain's chair with coffee, wind chimes singing, sometimes with Tom Martinez's grandson Diego for fishing lessons or Carol for legal stories. The community festival brings families together, free classes, tournaments, a memorial for those who've passed. Sarah always said, bullies only understand consequences. Thanks to knowing my rights, documenting everything, and refusing to be intimidated, that's exactly what they got. Justice arrived, and her memory lives on in a fairer place.